So, Tap+x variants. Let's talk about them. I covered how to stream with Tap+x in the previous video, so today we're going to be covering every Tap+x variant, their pros and cons to an extent, and then tier listing them in an extremely biased fashion. The tier list is going to be mainly for fun, but I hope the part of the video where I actually explain the variants could be some useful info for anybody actually getting into Tap+x. So without further ado, let's go over each variant. So I think Tobe style is what most people think of when you say Tap+x. Pioneered by the Japanese player Tobe, the Tobe variant is single tapping with your pen and streaming by alternating with Tap+x. Fairly standard. On to the pros and cons. I consider Tobe to be the most stable variant of Tap+x and also the easiest to learn. Since you're single tapping and not alternating, accuracy is a lot easier to train. The speed buff you get from streaming with Tap+x is a huge help as well. Of course, the one con I can think of would be, since you're not alternating, tech maps and alt maps can be a bit of a pain. Overall, you can't really go wrong with this one. You get the speed buff, some stability, everything you could want from Tap+x. A very solid A tier. Alright, here we go boys, my favorite style, Lesja. Pioneered by Lesja and popularized by the speed legend Oxycodone, Lesja style involves alternating between pen taps and X fully. Basically imagine full alternate, but on Tap+x. This is what I would like to call the high risk, high reward playstyle. It's arguably the hardest style to learn, but when you do learn and master it, it's also the most rewarding. Because you're fully alternating between two hands, you're not limited by your single tap speed unlike Tobe. But obviously, the hard part of Lesja is learning it. Even after you do learn the basics of it, accuracy probably isn't going to be your strongest suit. It's going to take possibly years of training to actually get it down. But if you can play Lesja, you're going to be one of the cool kids, because everybody who doesn't play Lesja, aka the normal people, won't understand what the hell you're doing. You can go pretty fast as well, so that's cool. As for the tier list, this one's an obvious S tier. The Emilia style, or Azuki style, or Tap+x style, is basically Tobe without the Tap+x streaming. You are going single tap with your pen like Tobe, but do streams with your keyboard as per normal. A pretty cool style which combines how intuitive it is to do jumps with your pen with how intuitive it is to do streams with your left hand. It's also one of the easier styles to learn, with the only actual hurdle I can think of being that it requires a bit of muscle memory to get over switching to ZX on streams. Now, I'm not all too experienced or familiar with this style, but just from my experiences, it's very solid and versatile. It can do both HR and DT. As for the tier list, let's go with C tier, because streaming with ZX is cheating. Oh man, this one's a hard one. ZX alternating on single taps and Tap+x on streams. Pioneered by Mayola, he alternates with ZX for normal notes and uses Tap+x on streams and bursts. It reminds me of the Emilia style, where you combine the intuitiveness of tapping and streaming with ZX, but instead for the Mayola style, it's combining the intuitiveness of ZX alternating and the speed of streaming with Tap+x. I did try playing it myself, and it distinctly reminds me of how it feels like to learn Lesja. Because K1 and M1 cancel each other out due to how the game works, you need to be careful you don't accidentally do a triple by alternating K1 and M1, since they'll cancel each other out. It's pretty niche but a fun style. As for the tier list, I think this one's a good B tier. So, reverse Tobe, a pretty cool but also niche style. I think the only person who I can think of who currently plays with this style is the Omi Nomi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. You single tap with your keyboard but stream with Tap+x. Well, since we've covered Tobe, let's compare reverse Tobe to Tobe. One of the biggest things you're going to notice when learning Tobe is on higher BPMs, your cursor can and probably will shake if you're not too familiar with tapping high BPMs. Since you're tapping with your keyboard on reverse Tobe, I think that negates the shaking problem quite well. Bring in that increased speed you get from streaming with Tap+x and you get reverse Tobe. Pretty nice and solid. I'd say that's a good A tier. I do realize I could apply Tap+x to any of the variants I previously mentioned, so let's talk about the differences between Tap+x and Tap+x in general. While Tap+x and Tap+x can sound like the same thing, there are a few notable differences. The first one I'd like to talk about is aim shake. Like I've said in the previous video, when you tap on the tablet, there's always going to be some level of cursor shake. But on Tap+x, since you're just clicking with your mouse, there can be essentially zero cursor shake. And in other words, that means more aim and cursor control. The next difference, and the more obvious one, is clicking is different from tapping. You're using different muscle groups to click, and that's going to matter, because I have no fucking clue how Haga1115 and how do you pronounce his name? And JPJTYLD are clicking 300 BPM with a mouse. This one is a solid S tier because every fucking Tap+x player I know lives in a different fucking dimension. So I just want to say we have a Tap+x server actually, and everybody there has roles for what variant they play. It's a pretty small server, but Tobe has 19 players, Lesja has 22, and Emilia style has 9. Now, I want you to take a wild guess how many people have the Blue Dragon variant role. Maybe 3? Maybe 5? Nope, 0. This playstyle is reserved for one lone madman, Miss Magius, aka Blue Dragon. BD's playstyle is essentially double tapping each note and streaming with Tap+x. Where do I even start with this one when Miss Magius himself says on his user page, I do not recommend it to anyone else due to how fucked this playstyle is and how it gives absolutely no advantage. Stick to ZX. Are there any pros? Maybe. The only ones I can think of would be some level of stability since you get more feedback from double tapping. But still, I have no idea where to start. If anybody wants to give this playstyle a shot, you're more than welcome to try and come to your own conclusions. As for this one, it goes in the BD tier. So, Zechi style. It's a variant of Lesja where you fully alternate between your tapping hand and tablet hand. But instead of just single tapping X on your left hand, you're alternating fingers on the spacebar, which you bind to X. I've heard someone say it's budget 3 keys, which is essentially what it is. Since you're alternating fingers on your left hand, if you have single tap weakness like I do, you're basically cheating and alternating a single key instead of single tapping. So essentially it has all the strengths of Lesja with a tiny low bonus that if you have single tap weakness, you can still play fast stuff. One of the most ridiculous things I've seen done with this playstyle is Hypno Fanboy's 11-star 422 BPM stream FC on the deepest ocean. Tier list wise, I'm gonna go with C because alternating a single key is a speed cheat. Thanks for watching to the end. Hopefully this video was somewhat entertaining and somewhat educational. Hell, maybe someone might come up with a new, cooler Tap+x variant down the line. Anyways, if you like this video, make sure to leave a like. Thanks for watching. Also, yeah, this video is just here because I haven't finished a video for this